There's another interesting chapter here that you have. It's called the map. So you have the tower, which is a more of a logical view, you say, and you have the map, which is more of a fluid view. Tell us about the map. Well, it's very similar to the tower, but imagine this. So it's not straight, but you have compassion on one side and aggression on one side and meaning in the middle. The map is meant to explain, for example, stories or music or symbols, any sort of manifestation which you can't pinpoint logically exactly. Show the map. This is the map. You have meaning inside here. As you can observe, you have this love, aggression, and the fluid mind. They all combine in the center with perceptions, high-level perceptions. The idea is that you can only have really three types of spiritual experiences. It's either you're one with God or the wrath of God. That's on the opposite side. And so you have the yin, the yang, and the middle. And the middle is something like the Holy Spirit, where you have the idea of angels or the messenger of God, where you just say things, you just manifest it. It's very pure, like a child, you just manifest it. What did you use this map for? As you can see here, we have the big five psychological traits, the ABC cluster system, which is personality disorders, the dark tetrad, which is pathological traits. Let's break that down really quickly. So, big five: open-mindedness, extraversion, agreeableness, neuroticism, and conscientiousness. All of them are broken into two aspects. Open-mindedness, you have intellectuality, that is basically interest in ideas. So you're thinking and you're interested in ideas. You have the creative mind, the expressive creative mind, but focus on creative right now. That's trait one. Two, extraversion. I think we all are familiar with that. Extrovert, introvert. But very interestingly, it's not only about speaking or being open to people. It's actually about feeling good. People who are extroverted have high levels of positive emotion. So extraversion is broken into enthusiasm and assertiveness. So if you're enthusiastic, hey, I got this book, and I'm like, hey. If you're assertive, nobody can stomp you down really, because you express yourself. If you're enthusiastic, well, they're basically happy. Happiness, when people say happy, basically they mean some sort of an enthusiastic disposition. Being agreeable, being nice, broken down into two again. You have compassion and politeness, and that's how you get the love-hate thing. If you're low on politeness, you're gonna be impolite, so more or less aggressive. Neuroticism is levels of anxiety, fear, panic, terror. So we are at the instinctual level right here. You have the red, which is that anxiety part of it, and you have a softer version of neuroticism, which is withdrawal. So you're staying away from society, you're staying away from the world, but it's not an active terror. It's like a cat. And conscientiousness, which is the second best predictor of life success after IQ. There's no such thing as emotional IQ, okay? There is such a thing as innate understanding of human beings, which some people are higher in, some people are lower in, but that's not intelligence. IQ is one of the cornerstones of psychology. Without acknowledging it, well, you're fucked. Okay, conscientiousness is broken down into doing stuff and being orderly. So one subtrait is called industriousness, which is doing stuff, and the other is being orderly. An interesting thing about orderliness is, for example, if you have an over-orderliness in you, you can develop something like Hitler had, where he saw the Jews as bugs, which are disgusting. So he turned people into things, don't do that. But also that disgust. Disgust is on the second instinct, because you have survival, and then you have finer smell, taste, touch. So if something is disgusting, it stinks, it's a finer instinct. Conscientiousness is on that back and forth system. It's at every level. With open-mindedness, it's obviously about the mind. Being agreeable has something to do with emotions. It's more obvious, but with conscientiousness, that's a tricky one. It's on every level. Another thing to understand is that every one of these traits at the extremes has pros and cons. Whoa. You say being anxious and having fear can be a pro. It depends. People with no high fear are 3 times more probable to break their arms or legs at some point in their life. So in a sense, fear protects the fearful from bad things. It's good to be anxious when you have a child, because you always have to be aware of what the child is doing. Let's take the complete opposite. You're extremely relaxed, you're looking at the kid, and the kid smashes its head on the table. So you need some sense of urgency. Each trait, each element can be pro or con. Now, if you're listening to this, most likely you're high in open-mindedness. By the way, there is a personality test from Jordan Peterson for the Big Five in order to figure out where you stand personality-wise and understand the word a little bit better. So being open-minded comes on the intellectual side. So when you are interested about ideas, which apparently you are, comes with overthinking. And on the other side of the spectrum, spectrum, you have something that I like to call practical thinkers. So the opposite of an overthinker is a person that gets the job done. Now, the practical-minded person is not an idea person. They won't invent Facebook, but the overthinker will. So you have this trade-off. So it's very important when looking at personalities and at the world that everyone has traits that should exist, even if they are opposite to yours. Well, why would you want, for example, a disagreeable person? Well, if you're a politician or if you're a leader, sometimes you have to be harsh. You can't be overly agreeable and let your employees do whatever they want. Or conscientiousness. Well, you know that meme with just a chill guy being overly conscientious? It's more of a German stiffness. And somebody who's overly orderly, people call them uptight. So there's a pro and con every element. Why would you not be extroverted? Well, if you're very happy, you tend to take risks to be in the moment. But guess what? If I have a kilo of cocaine here, just living in the moment, I shouldn't snort cocaine at all, but obviously not a kilo. So you don't want maximum enthusiasm or assertiveness. With assertiveness, it's obvious that you sometimes have to listen. So you have to shut the hell up sometimes. With enthusiasm, hyper enthusiasm at the psychiatrical level. So you have psychology, psychological disorders, psychological pathologies, and psychiatry. So at the psychiatrical level, you're in mania. Mania means that you're overly happy, horny, and living in the moment, and you don't sleep at all, and you have all the energy in the world, and you spend all your money, and your life is very hardcore happy. That's not a good place to be in, which is not obvious. Okay. You also talk here about the ABC clusters. Okay, personality disorders. I won't go through each one of them, but the core idea is that having a little bit of a personality disorder is more of a quirk, more of a way of being, and where it overextends, it becomes negative. For example, one personality disorder is narcissism. So if you are a little bit narcissist, that means you have some sort of a lack of confidence and you want to over put yourself out there as being great. If you have a little bit of that, people might see you as confident. You're not, but it's not that bad. When you go higher, it goes bad. Like, I'm the greatest person in the world. Nobody's like me. Nobody likes to hear this type of attitude. Or, for example, OCD, another personality disorder. If you have a little bit of that, you're most likely orderly. If you have a lot of it, imagine that I'm doing this every 5 seconds because I have OCD. But if I do it once, it's okay. So at low level, it's more of a way of being, more of a personality thing, and it becomes a disorder when it gets higher. Or borderline personality disorder, where you have very wide emotions. So you experience love and hate a lot, like intensely. Experiencing life intensely is not inherently bad. It's bad when you have, for example, a partner and you go from overly loving the person, then going to despising or not wanting to have anything to do with said person. That's where it becomes a disorder. Okay? Can you tell me a little bit about this dark tetrad? That's basically a scale of evil. If people were honest, nobody measures 0 on it. By the way, there are tests. I mentioned the Jordan Peterson Big 5 test for personality disorders. There are also tests for the dark tetrads. So on the map, you have Machiavellic, which basically means the evil guy behind the scenes, the plotter, the schemer, the liar. You have the psychopath, which their major issue is that they don't have compassion. There is a huge literature on psychopaths, but as far as I can tell, that's the most important thing. They don't have compassion. Then you have the narcissist, but this is not a quirk or slight disorder. This is bad. They have so little confidence that they plus and plus and plus and plus their value and their ability and their life to the point that nobody wants to exist around them. And the fourth, sadistic, which is on the extinction level, and I think that's pretty straightforward. What is not straightforward about sadism is that sadism can come in the form of, for example, online harassment. People can get pleasure out of torturing people online. So it doesn't necessarily have to be a physical thing. You have BDSM, stuff, but it can be on an emotional level. It can be on a faraway level.